Ta-da! Fantastic Caverns near Springfield, Missouri. Let's do it! Yeah! Alright guys, here's the parking lot. Jammobile. Woohoo! Fantastic Caverns. Wow. I'm excited to get in there. Alright guys, here's the parking lot. Jammobile. Woohoo! Fantastic Caverns. Wow. I'm excited to get in there. Says, discovered in 1862. While tracking an animal, Juno the bloodhound disappeared into a small hole at the base of a bluff. Unable to find his way back to the surface, he was followed by owner John Knox and found inside the cave. Yeah. Huh. Ancient underground river took a winding course, carving the passages of America's Drive-Thru cavern. Carved by water. Century after century, water persisted against rock, leaving behind a crystalline trail. A stone gave way to space. The cave was born. There it is. I don't know if you can see that because of the way the sun's shining on it, but it's just really cool. All right, let's go get in there. Exploration. 1867. After the end of the American Civil War, it was decided to explore the cave. In response to an ad in the Springfield newspaper, 12 local women arrived during their exploration. They left their names on the cave's wall to commemorate the event. Cool. Yay. Hey, here we go to the visitor center. Missouri has 13 caves open for public. There are 6,000 known caves in Missouri. That's why it's called the Cave State. There's my ticket for Fantastic Caverns. Starts at 6 o'clock. They have a cool store here. Check that out. It's awesome. All sorts of little things, fossils that you can buy. Let's check these out. Fantastic Caverns Science Research Program. Little Sack River, Indian Spring, Canyon Trail.
I have been to their Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest, yeah. Do they still have the music there? Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Well, they had something called...
The next departure into Fantastic Caverns will be boarding in 10 minutes.
It's pretty cool. So if you come to the store, you can buy all sorts of Fantastic Caverns gear. Pretty cool. Alright guys, well here we go. Let's do it. Into the cave we go.
Look up there and give them a big smile.
Three, two, one.
I got 8. After we go into the cave and find it in a low spot, I'm going to shine my light on the low spot so you know that you need to duck your head. The first one is right there. Watch your head right there as we go under. There's another one down there. I'm going to also shine my light on it just to kind of warn you that there's another low spot coming up. Watch your head here as we go under. Another low spot, driver's side again. Watch your head right there. I stopped here because I want to introduce myself. My name's Melody. I'm going to be here doing your tour guide for your tour tonight. And I want to welcome you to Fantastic Caverns. You have come to the #1 drive-through cave in America. Do you know why we're the #1 drive-through cave in America?
You're the only one.
That's right, we're the only one. There you go. There are 3 others, but they're in other countries. This is the only one that is in the United States. I also stopped here because I want to talk to you about the cave owner back in 1930. He was doing some cave tours, but not many tours were getting done because we're talking about 1930. And that's when the Great Depression hit. Most people didn't have any money to do anything like a cave tour. And planting 8 beds in here. This is the only one that's left to kind of show you what it looks like. He was growing something in here that requires no sunlight whatsoever. Grows best in the dark and with 100% humidity. Actually grew in here very well. This something starts with an M. Do you know what that would have been? What? Mushrooms. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are actually a fungus and not a plant, and so they grow best in the dark. And when the lights are off in here, you can see just how dark it is in here. And he harvested them and took them in Springfield and sold them at farmers markets. And you'd be surprised how many people say marijuana. So we're going to go up here, we're going to tell you these are propane powered jeeps. There is no gas fumes in the cave. And we...
All right, keep on moving. It's dark. It's getting dark.
We're going to start over here against the winds of the cave, through the cave wall and the cave ceiling, and just kind of running down the wall there. Now it's got that really red rusty look to it, because anytime water comes into the cave, as it passes through the dirt and the rock, it's going to pick up minerals. And in this case, it's actually picking up the mineral of iron, and that's what's giving it that really red look there. Up here on the ceiling, you're going to see lots of stalactites in here. Anything that hangs from the ceiling in a cave is always called a stalactite. You can remember that because they hold tight to the ceiling. These two here in the middle, they're very thin formations, and those are actually, besides being called a stalactite, they're also called cave curtains or cave drapery. Those are so thin that you could actually see light through them. But because they are so thin, and that is because the ceiling is at an incline up there, so when the water passes through that rock, it follows the incline of the ceiling, and that makes for really thin formations. Some of that water is going to run down the side of it, and at the very bottom, in that water, it's going to be a little bit of mineral, and that's going to cause that one to grow longer. Then some of that water is going to drip down here on this one, bringing with it a little bit of mineral, and that's going to cause that one to grow taller. This one here is called a stalagmite. You can remember that because as it continues to grow, it might reach that other one in the middle. Once it reaches that one, and they actually touch, then they become a column or a pillar. Now, we don't know how old the formations are in the cave. If there's one formation at the next stop, we actually know exactly how old it is, and that's because there was a mistake made in the cave. That mistake caused a formation to start to grow. Well, we know the date that that mistake was made, so we know how old it is. And because we got up there and measured it, we also know how big it is. And because of those two things, we can guesstimate on how quickly everything else in this cave is growing. So because of that one up here, I'm going to show you next. We can look at this one right here, and we can tell you that this one right here is growing approximately 1 cubic inch every 100 years. So if you came back in 100 years, basically the only difference you would see in this one is it would look like it had a thick coat of paint put on it, and that's as far as it's going to get. But let me take you up there and show you that one that we actually know exactly how. Kind of obvious, isn't it? Let me tell you where you are right now. We have gone underneath the parking lot. We went under the road that you guys drove in on. We went under that road, and we are now on the other side of that road under a hill there. That man who owned that piece of property over there, he was building a new house, and then this house he wanted to put a well in. He knew the cave there was below his property, so he came down here with the cave owner. Him and the cave owner kind of did some measuring, and went up top, they did some more measuring, did a little math. You can see that those men weren't that good at their measuring or their math, because there it says, they drilled down here 93 foot, and that drill got come crashing in the cave. So they actually made a little bit of a mistake. That pipe was supposed to be 10 foot on the other side of that wall. So they made a big mistake. But you know, the cave owner, he could see had a nice little hole in the ceiling up there, and didn't want that to happen again, so he decided to go ahead and let them keep going. They went down another 50 foot where they hit water in the lower level of the cave here, and they went ahead and put that pipe in. Now, that pipe was put in here in 1941. That means it's been in the cave now for 83 years. And when it was first put in, it was a black well casing. You can see it's not black anymore, because when it was put in, water started streaming in around the top up there. That water ran down that pipe. With that water came a mineral that's called calcite. Calcite has completely covered that pipe over the last 83 years, and as long as the pipe stays in here, and it is gonna stay in here, because they have decided that to pull that out of here and leave a 93-foot hole in the cave would not be good for the cave. So it's gonna stay in here, and as long as it does, the calcite will continue to grow. All here, those are little baby cave curtains. Now, we call them babies, but actually, they're 83 years old, because they also started when that pipe was put in. But they are only 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Those are little baby cave curtains, just like the cave curtain I showed you at the last stop. But these are little bitty tiny ones that had just started. And so that is where we're getting the 1 cubic inch per 100 years of everything else in here growing, is because we know how old they are and we know how big they are. Now, if that one took 83 years to get 3/4 of an inch, look up there in front of you. That thing right there, that's a full-grown cave curtain right there. So 1 inch per 100 years. How old do you suppose that one is up there? Got any guesses, anybody? We don't know how old it is. We don't even know how old the cave is. We can only tell you that we're riding on an ancient underground riverbed right here. Water flowed through this cave for hundreds and hundreds of years, and as it did, this is known as a limestone cave. Limestone is a rock that is very porous and can be dissolved in water. So as the water flowed through here for hundreds of years, slowly that limestone rock dissolved in the water, and when the water went out, the limestone rock went with it. That's what cut out the cave in here. This is called a solution cave. That means that everything you see in this cave, from the top, the bottom, the sides, everything in here was made because of water. Now we're going to go up here at the next stop. We're going to show you what it's like to be in this cave in its natural state. You know what the natural state of a cave is? Dark. Lots of people say, I know what dark is. This is a whole new level of dark. Let's go up there and see what real dark is. Natural darkness. One of those places is a cave. Do you know where the other one would be? Where? Bottom of the ocean. Miles around, and they waited in line. But they didn't come here to see the cave. They came here to see the light bulbs. They've never seen light bulbs before. We're talking about 1887. Electricity in America wasn't widespread for 50 more years. So everybody wanted to come and see what a light bulb was. Then in 1970, they had a man come in who was a lighting expert with a theater company. And he said, you know what, this kind of lighting is okay, but it throws off too much shadow. And everything in here now looks brown. And if you were to take those lights off the ceiling and mount them on the floor and light the cave from the bottom up, instead of the top down, you would be amazed at the colors that would come out. So we did that. We brought incandescent lighting. We put them on the floor. We lit the cave from the floor. But much different there. Now you can actually see the colors depending on what mineral followed the water in. We're going to go over here over a couple of bridges. The first bridge we're going to go over is going over a sinkhole in the cave that's about 25 foot deep. We're going to pass by it. We're going to stop on the second bridge. The second bridge is going over a sinkhole in the cave that's about 35 foot deep. We're going to stop on that bridge. We're going to talk about water. If you guys want to stand up and look over, you're welcome to do that as long as the Jeep is stopped. over there. From that bridge, the water goes out the back side of the cave, and anytime water comes out the cave, it's always called a spring, and that's Indian Spring right behind us. Now, deep underneath the bridge here, about a mile underneath the bridge, there's permanent pools of water down there. That is where the cave animals live. We have a cave fish, we have a cave crawfish, and we have salamanders and some few shrimp down there. They all three have been down there long enough that they've generations of them, that they've totally lost their eyesight. They're completely blind. And not only are they blind, they're completely white in color because they've lost all pigmentation to their skin. Important because that water is going to worship bugs and leaves, and that's the only way those little animals down there have of getting food from the outside. So it's important that we have water come in. In the wintertime, we'll have some melted snow and some rain comes. Still going to close about 4 times a year because there's other places in the cave that water comes in, and even if it needs to be a foot deep, that's still too deep for us to safely be driving through here. So we'll probably close about 4 times. We're going to go up here around the corner. I'm going to show you a little film. That film is only 3 minutes long, but it tells you a little bit more about how the cave was made, a little bit more about the cave animals. Then I'm going to tell you how the cave was discovered, and I got lots to tell you on the way back, and I'm going to answer some questions up here.
Fantastic Caverns. These are some of our samplers. A spring is the drainage point for a cave system. What I want to do today is give you a look at the whole drainage system, and it's going to be a good day for doing it because we have had a lot of rain in the past couple days. Why the spring is so large. Water goes into the cave system through things like sinkholes and then moves through the cave and discharges here at the spring. The flow of the spring today is about 9,000 gallons a minute, and every bit of that goes through Fantastic Caverns. About 3/4 of the runoff water in the Ozarks moves into cave systems. We're a mile from the spring here at a vertical entrance into the Fantastic system.
This is one of the most open sinkholes in the whole Fantastic Cavern system. It's so open, in fact, that walnuts that wash in here make it all the way through the cave. I could do without all the drips, I think, but that's the way the water gets in. And of course, that's not only does the water get in that way, that's the way food gets in for the cave animals, and contaminants get in too. I believe the jeeps get in some way other than that, though. Off-road! Off-road!
The cave is here because limestone can be dissolved by water. This piece of limestone weighs about 1 pound. There is this much limestone dissolved in every 1,000 gallons of water discharging from the spring today. You can imagine the enormous volumes of water and long periods of time required to form the cave. Basically, a cave is a drain spring system. Since caves are part of spring systems, storms can flood them and make them dangerous. This isn't your normal Ozark float trip. The fish, the crayfish, and most of the other cave animals are tiny, white, and blind. Although they spend their entire lives in the cave, they depend on the surface for their food. When contaminants come in from the surface, they threaten the life here. With cave systems, whatever goes down comes up. Pollution threatens all life. By studying groundwater and by working to protect its quality, we can protect the beauty of the cave and preserve our quality of life.
The land above us here was owned by a man whose name was John Knox. Mr. Knox owned a dog whose name was Juno. Juno was a bloodhound and he was a good hunting dog. You've probably seen a statue of him up there at the pavilion. He took his dog hunting in 1862 and that dog seen some small animal, took out after it, ran over a hill and went into a little hole. A hole that John Knox had never seen on his property before. But he seen the dog land, he couldn't get the dog to come back out. So he ran home and got him a candle, came back, crawled in that little hole for about 20 foot before he realized that he could actually stand up. By being able to stand up in there, he kind of had a clue that there was a cave on his property. And by lighting his candle, the dog had a point of light to come to. So he took his dog out and he covered up the hole so Juno couldn't go back in there again. But he also covered up the hole because he didn't want anybody to know that there was a cave here. Because it was 1862 and that was not a good time to have a cave on your property. And we're going to talk about that later. But he decided to keep the cave secret. He kept it secret for 5 years. Then in 1867, he decided to go ahead and reveal the cave. Did that by putting an ad in the Springfield newspaper asking for a volunteer to come out and explore the cave for him. Got a response from the Springfield Athletic Club, said they wanted to do it. So they made arrangements to meet each other. When they went out to his house, he was probably a little surprised when he realized that the Springfield Athletic Club turned out to be 12 young ladies. Now, these girls had been in many, many caves before because that's what their club did. They went around and explored caves. And so they had all the equipment. They had the ropes, the ladders, and the lanterns. So it only made sense for John Knox to let them come in. They'd been in caves before, and they had all the equipment. But they had never been the first one in the cave before, so that was all exciting to them. So on the way back, I'm going to show you that there's a spot on the side of the wall that those girls wanted to put their names and put the date they came in so everybody would know they were the first ones in here. I'm going to go by that spot real slow. If you want to take a picture of it, you're welcome to do that. I'll kind of warn you before we go get to that spot. So if you want to take a picture or something, you're going to know it's coming and you get prepared for it. Now, I'm going to run through some questions that are asked of us. These are the most asked questions all the time. The number one question is everybody always asks us is, do we have any bats in the cave? Yes, we do. We have about 25 to 30. They're called tricolored bats. They are the size of a quarter. They weigh that much. And they do not hang from the ceiling like little brown bats do. The bats that we have in here are hang on the sides of the walls, and they hide totally separate from each other. Little brown bats usually hang in clusters. But the only time we really see them is if we fly out, to eat mosquitoes or bugs or something, then they come back in here. We almost never see them, find them in the cave. Once in a great while, we'll find them hanging out. They ask if the stalactites can fall off the ceiling. The answer to that is no, they can't fall off the ceiling. We've never had one fall off the ceiling. Doesn't mean you can't hit them and knock them down. Yes, you can, and that has been done in the past. But they can't fall on their own. People ask us if there's ever been any Indian artifacts in the cave. And no, we have never found any. We didn't find any drawings, no bones, no nothing like that. even though the Little Sock River sits right smack behind the cave here, and there was some things found down there, but not in the cave itself. But then that tells us nobody knew the cave was here till John Knox's dog found the cave. We added a question because so many people at the end of a tour, they'll always ask us if they're permitted to give the tour guide a gratuity. And yes, you can, but it is absolutely not expected. But it is a question that's asked of us so often that we added that question. Another question people ask us is this part of a government park system? And no, it's not. This cave has always been privately owned. It's changed hands about 7 times from 1862 to now. The people who own it now, it's a family, it's a Campbell family. They bought it in 1992 and they actually managed it for 20 years before that. So it's been in their family a long time. The only other question I can think of is people always ask us has everything in the cave been explored? Yes, it has, as far as a human being can get through there. There's a lot of spots in the cave where, only water could get through because it's so tiny. But anything that a human could get through, yes, those spots have been explored. Anybody got any questions that I did not answer? Anything?
What about the lines for the lights? Like where?
What about the what?
The wiring. Where's it at to get the light?
It's all professionally hidden.
Okay.
But if people do always ask me, they say, did you guys do something to the ceiling? Because that ceiling's awfully smooth. Nope, the water did that, not us. And I always look at it too and wonder, man, that ceiling is so smooth. How did it happen? The water running through here just kind of polished it. A little history lesson here. 1862, something was going on in this country that actually made it unsafe to have a cave on your property. You know what was going on in the country in 1862? The Civil War. Not very far from here, just outside of Springfield, just to the west of us here, there's a place over there called Wilson's Creek National Battlefield. It's a museum, and then you drive through the battlefield. It's acres and acres of battlefield. Very interesting. But the reason I tell you about that is because back in 1861, lots and lots of bloody battles started over there. So by 1862, when John Knox's dog found this cave, that was just 1 year later. Lots of soldiers in this area. Blue and the gray. He did not want them to find this cave, because had they found the cave, the first thing they would have done was they would have confiscated the cave. Now, those soldiers are actively looking for caves because there is a mineral in the soil that they want, and they're going to take that mineral out of the soil and they're going to use it later. Let me show you how they got the mineral out of the soil. They come in here and they build something like this. This is called the leaching vat. It's hollow on the inside. They come in here and they dig up all the dirt in here. They fill it all the way to the top of the dirt. Then they take buckets of water and they pour that water over top of all that dirt. Now, we're talking about an enormous amount of water. They would have poured bucket after bucket after bucket. They're trying to get that water to leach through the dirt, because the mineral that's in the dirt is going to dissolve in the water, and it's going to come into that bucket down below. So that bucket there would have been a very mineral-rich water. They take it outside the cave, they put it into a big pot like this, they let that water start to get hot, start to boil, and eventually through the day that water would have all boiled away. Well, after all that water's gone, the only thing left in there around the sides and around the bottom is a white crystalline substance, which is called potassium nitrate. Potassium nitrate is commonly known to everybody as saltpeter. Saltpeter is in the ground, and that's what the soldiers are after. So they go out there and they scrape that saltpeter out of the pot. They take the wood ash out of the fire and add it to it, mix it up, and then they put a little sulfur in there and they mix that up, take it out, and they grind it up till they had a nice fine powder. You know what that would have been? Gunpowder. Black gunpowder. You know what? They were seriously looking for that because in 1862 there was a shortage of gunpowder. Now, if they don't have any gunpowder, they don't have any guns, because that's the only way that their guns work. And so they were in the middle of a war, and that would have been something really important to them. But John Knox didn't want them to find this cave, because had they found the cave, like I said, they would have taken the cave away from him. But then they wouldn't have stopped there. They would have also taken his home from him, because they would have used his home kind of like a field hospital. And then if Mr. Knox had had any kind of livestock, they had a lot of men they had to feed, and that would have been a way for them to feed their men. They would have killed his livestock. So John Knox would have lost his cave, would have lost his home, would have lost his livestock. And as bad as that sounds, something even worse than that could happen, because they tried to take everything that that man owned in the world at the time. And if he had tried to do any kind of resisting of it at all, you know what else he could have lost? His life. They would have just shot him. They would have shot it and taken everything anyway. So he stayed quiet until those girls came in 1867. He did that because the war actually ended in 1865. And he gave it 2 more years to make certain the fighting was over, because he had everything to lose and he had nothing to gain by anybody knowing there was a cave here. Now, this cave has an enormous amount of history that I don't have time to tell you all of it, but I'm going to tell you a little piece of it. Back in 1920, something else was going on in this country across the land. You know what that was? Prohibition. No drinking across the land. Well, those people who didn't want to give up their love of the drink, they have to say, okay, well, if I can't drink up there anymore, then I'm just going to come down here and drink. And so they made this right here into an illegal nightclub at night that was called the Speakeasy. Bought one across the rock right there. Then they brought in gambling tables and lined the walls with those. And then they brought in a dance floor and a piano. And they had a good time in here for 3 years. Then the man who was supplying them with the moonshine, he got into a fight with his partner. And he shot and killed his partner. Well, that brought the sheriff out here. But you know what? This went on for 3 years. So a lot of people say, it went on for 3 years. How come the sheriff didn't already know it was here? Well, we think he did know it was here, but he was down here drinking with them, you know. So now the sheriff's got to do his job. It's illegal to drink and it was illegal to gamble. So he closed it down, and that was the end of everybody's fun right there. But fast forward again, 1960. This stage right here was put in because this room became a, you see the lighting up there that they put on the ceiling? They chose not to take it down and re-damage the ceiling, so it's going to stay up there. But that went on a music show every Wednesday and Saturday night. And they brought some, big names at the time out here. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the program, Hee Haw. Okay, well, Buck Owens, he played on the stage right here every Saturday night. And then they brought somebody else out called Ray Price. He played on the stage, and then they brought a family out here that was a very musical family. And they were actually, the music in here was recorded and broadcast on NBC Radio. And so this family got to be really popular. And they got to be so popular that they took their act down to Branson, and they opened up one of the very first shows in Branson. Their names were the Presidents. If you happen to go to Branson, you're going to see their theater. It's a huge theater, and if you get a chance to talk to them, tell them that you've seen where they started, right here, 3 years before they went down there. So, the next spot we're going to go up here, it's called the Breakdown, and that is because a long time ago the ceiling gave way, and all that rock that was on the ceiling fell, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to hope that doesn't happen again. So I want the kids in here to all cross your fingers, so that we're going to say, I hope that doesn't happen today, right? Okay, good. Now, on our way up there, there's going to be a couple of spots that's going to be low to your head. I'm going to shine my light on those spots so you know what's going to happen. Oh, yeah. For hundreds of years, and as it did, many times that water would rise and fall, saturating all that rock on the ceiling. Well, if any of that rock had been limestone, that limestone would have dissolved in the water. When the water went out, the limestone rock went with it. And that would have weakened the rest of this rock, and it would have started to dry and crack, and eventually it gave way and it fell in here. Now, the first time, this is where the ceiling would have been, right here. But when it fell, it caused that first shelf right there. Sometime later it fell again, and last time it gave way was up there. You see that shoe print? Now remember, 1 inch every 100 years, you can tell by how big those are, but not only those, but down here on the debris, the formations that are started growing on the debris, that tells us that happened a really seriously long time ago. And every time that ceiling fell, it's in a dome shape, and all the walls in here are evenly supporting the dome shape to it. So structurally, this is a very sound area right here. We're only about from the ceiling that you see right here to the surface is only about 30 foot. We're sitting right underneath the parking lot right here, but that's 30 foot of solid rock right there. I don't know how you feel about being underneath your cars, but most stalactites up there. I mean, there's thousands of them, and it just makes that ceiling look gorgeous.
It might not be quick.
20 foot underground right here. We are very close to the surface, and so very easy for water to be able to drip through here to make these big formations. So now here's an interesting spot. So that means that if you are on the driver's side, if you don't know the person across from you, you might want to go ahead and introduce yourself. Your old head's going to be giving our knees here in just a minute. So you are definitely going to have to watch your head as we pull out of the cave. Right along here.
Lights off when you play it.
Girls went in, and until 1920, if you want to see the cave, if you wanted to do a cave tour, you went in through that little hole right there, because that was the only opening in the cave until 1920, when this one opened up. This opened up so that they could take all that one right over there. And they dug all this out so that they could open that up to take that stuff in. I think it's probably a good idea they opened that up, because, I mean, come on. You see the guys, if you see the guys in there, they have a couple of glasses of moonshine. Do you think that they're gonna make it out through that hole right there? Probably not.
One more.
I thought there was
Last but
another
not least, thank you.
one. Let me get this over here. When I go up there in the rain shelter, I'm gonna ask you guys to stay on the tram till I put that step out. It makes it a little safer for you stepping out, but I thank you guys for coming and spending this hour with me.
Oh yeah, you can. How would you do it? That'd be the end of the world. Well, that was fun. All right, so we did it. We got to tour Fantastic Caverns here near Springfield, Missouri. That was awesome. Now you can see why Missouri is called the Missouri's called the Cave State, the Show Me State, the Cave State. But it's awesome. Let's get out of here. All right, we did it. Another awesome adventure today on Jam's Adventures. Today we visited Fantastic Caverns near Springfield, Missouri. What an awesome thing. You ride this little Jeep thing through the caverns, and it was so much fun. Had fun, guys. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if in the comments what you guys are thinking about the videos. If you would like a Jam's Adventure sticker, all you have to do is send me your contact information via email. I appreciate you guys. This was fun. Let's keep doing this. I've been having fun. I hope you guys are having fun too. Thanks for watching my videos. Check you guys out later. Bye.